Hey y'all, we are talking about Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, episode 6. It was a lot going on. Like, even before this, Atlanta had gone off, so my adrenaline was already pretty high, and this episode did not disappoint. Like, it was a lot. From the top of the episode, the girls were clocking tea. Like, I feel like everything that needed to be said was being said. Like, from the people that would typically say it. So, like, Jordan immediately clocked the tea with Jasmine because we're coming off of, them having that dinner and Jasmine breaking down that dinner and talking about, essentially she said how hard marriage is and that weird conversation that she had with Jordan last episode where she kind of made it seem like Jordan needed a man, like she didn't know what was going on. That made her realize, like, oh, I'm really disconnected from my friends. That realization was a little bit off to me. I wanted her, which I noted last episode, I wanted her to realize, like, oh, I'm being weird to my friends. But it didn't circle around to that for her, I guess. But Jordan clocked it. Jordan was just like, like, at the end of the day, Jasmine was trying to put on this presentation, and it's just like this image of like, oh, this big perfect marriage and blah 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 blah, and she kind of started to like sink into it and lean into it. So I mean, that's just kind of where she was. So at the end of the day, like, Jordan is acknowledging like Jasmine was being weird. She wasn't being herself, but I thought that she was happy there, but clearly not. So here we are. And then immediately after that, Bria's clocking that to you because she's like, girl, you're over there crying, but at the end of the day, like, you did this to yourself. Because Jasmine was just like, I feel like, I don't remember what word she used. Oh, she felt like she's isolated from her friends. Like, but it's like, Bria, and I had even noted this before Bria said it, but Bria said it, she's like, you caused that yourself. Like, you did that. You're the cause of that. So, which is what I wanted Jasmine, again, to come around to and realize, but whatever, maybe subconsciously or maybe behind the scenes she does realize that, but she didn't really want to admit that. But yeah, so that's what that is. So that whole thing happens, the dinner ends, the kiki kaka, they get back in the car. I think we even noticed, like, at the dinner briefly, we realized that, like, Jason's kind of a talker, but he was also lit. So he was just kind of being like, I don't know. He was giving his analysis of the situation, I guess, as a friend of Jasmine. Everybody's just kind of like, boy, shut up. But it continued in the car. And he dropped this, like, random statistic where he was like, 80% of women are, I forgot what the statistic was, but it was something crazy, like 80% of women are not happy in their marriage or something like that. Something to that effect. And I'm thinking, like, but before I could even fully form my Summer's in the back, like, did you Google that, or is that something that you just knew? Like, cause what?
80 or 90% of women lose themselves in a marriage.
Is this like something you've Googled and you know?
Like, at that point, Summer had literally risen to the faves because I'm like, yeah, like, boy, sit back, Jason. Come on. They get back to the house. What I did note, like, it was kind of awkward watching. I wish that they hadn't. Yana Bria is my girl, but it feels like they just give her such a weird edit. But they did show, like, they got back to the room and everybody seemed to have been a little full meaning drunk, and and maybe full off food too, and that, like, Simon he was lit. Like, he had to have, well, who was it? Alex drove his car back to the house. He was lit, so he wasn't really trying to, like, get active with Bria that night. And I'm sure that irritated Bria because it was their first night reuniting after I don't know how long. I feel like it had probably just been like a week, maybe. But still. Now that I think about it, though, like, it had only been a week, so it's not that deep. But it feels like she was getting the edit that, like, Simon wasn't trying to have, whatever. So, but don't do that to my girl. They're basically in the kitchen talking about how lit they got, and at the next day, like, everybody's hungover, and they noted, I think Jasmine has said, like, that's what happens when you have tequila and champagne, and I can attest to that, because I'm a tequila girl, and every now and then I'll have a little champagne. Not a great mixture. Like, would not recommend to do that in the same night. Not, like, no, in no particular order at all. Just don't do it. It's one of the worst hangovers I've had in my life. So they're lit like that, so I feel them. I'm connecting with them emotionally. Shanice comes back, which I wasn't particularly astounded by. I didn't feel like she contributed anything to the show like when she first came for the first week, but boy was I wrong, right? She comes back and we kind of get this hint of like Alex versus Shanice coming, I guess. I don't think that's fully gonna develop itself, but it was convenient for the episode. But you know, they showed a flashback to when Alex Googled her and found the weird stuff about her ex, which she keeps saying is a lie, but I was hearing that there was some really good evidence out there from the ex, but she keeps saying it was a lie. So I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I don't care that much, but it's interesting to hear her perspective on it. You know, basically, they show that Alex did this. Shanice felt some type of way about it, so she's like, I don't really want to be around Alex. I'm not fooling with Alex. And there's some weird energy between them. But again, I don't think that's going to fully develop itself, but it was convenient, like whatever. She did talk about it with a couple of the ladies, including Jasmine. Jasmine's the one I noticed because she essentially, as I guess the like group leader, and she wants to keep the storylines in the show going. So she's like, well, you know, you have to address it or it's gonna get, you know, like talked over. So, you know, so that happens. Then we get some more tea clocking. Like Preston is literally climbing on my list, literally, because he's just like one of the, if not the only reasonable person in this house fully. Like it just be so much foolishness happening sometimes and just like crazy stuff going on. And Preston, like you can always count on Preston to be sitting in the back like I'm glad that he was fully engaged this time. I don't know how many days we were in. I wasn't paying attention if they did any day stamps this time. But Preston's over it. He is like, and I mean, Silas is his line brother. So I guess they're some level of familiar with each other. So, you know, at this point, at first it felt like it was going well. And I even made a mental note because I feel like some of the girls on social media are not feeling Bria. And I feel like they're not feeling Bria in the house. And somebody even mentioned like, Bria had a potential villain role that she should have been playing. I didn't read too much into that, but I guess. So I say that to say like at the beginning of the episode, I had made a mental note. And I was like, you know, it seems like she's getting along with the group. She made a toast at the end of the dinner, which got awkward because Jasmine was crying. And, you know, everybody had a good time. They got lit. So that was fun. But now we're back to the BS immediately. And I guess Milo had used the bathroom, number two, on a rug in the house. Come to find out, it was all the way in the basement, which I didn't even really recognize that they had. And I hadn't really seen much of anybody down there. So, you know, not just, I mean, poop on the floor shouldn't be on the floor, but it wasn't like it was sitting on somebody's mattress, is what I'm trying to say. So it's like underneath a foosball table or something on a rug in the basement. And I don't even remember who noticed it. I think it was Summer. And she goes around, which I already initially thought was weird. Like, she kind of was going around to because I'm thinking like, okay, what I was thinking is the storyline that because they're obviously following it for a reason. So I'm thinking, is the storyline that she's going to go to Simon, who she doesn't really know, and maybe Bria gets upset about that? Or is she going to do the right thing and go directly to Bria? I'm thinking that's what we were about to follow. You know, I'm just creating it in my head because we're following it for a reason. But she goes to everybody else in the house and she's like, Milo pooped on the floor. And it's like, okay. Like, was this an ongoing issue or conversation where it was like Milo's using the bathroom on the floor? Like, why was this a topic of discussion? And it seemed like it's pretty early in the day, too. So, like, that's the first thing y'all want to talk about. And it makes its way to Silas. Silas is just like, well, first it made its way to Alex, and Alex was like, oh, house meeting, and I'm like, now Alex is pissed about Milo's poop. Like, where did this come? So that was just so weird to me. It makes this, ooh, I'm knocking the mic over. I'm getting passionate. It makes its way to Silas, and this is just when I feel like I have been trying with Silas and trying to figure out. I think I even said that, you know, I didn't know if Silas was the issue. Silas might be a little bit more reasonable. I said something along those lines. This episode, I wasn't feeling it. From this moment on, like, as soon as it got to him, as soon as he found out, he's like, oh, Silas took that super seriously. I thought Alex was kind of keyking, but still being annoying. but whatever. But I think Silas took that and was like, oh yeah, for sure. Everybody, come on, everybody down to the living room. We got to have a house meeting. And Preston immediately is like, girl, I know you lying. Like, what? Are y'all serious? Like, yet again, clocking the tea that he clocked last episode, where it was just like, it always has to be an argument. Like, everything in this house has to be an argument, and nothing about that is serious. And I love that he got to even explain, like, Bria's room is right there. Like, Silas passed Bria's room to come to me and tell me that we're having a house meeting about Milo's poop, but still hasn't even addressed Bria about it directly so she can fix it. Because all it is poop on the carpet. All she has to do is go clean it up.
Silas is walking past Bria's door in order to get to my non-door. So you clearly could have knocked on her door as you were making your way to my room. If y'all don't understand how y'all are making this worse, I don't know what to tell y'all.
My note about the basement comes because it's in the basement. So I'm sure she didn't know, because it doesn't seem like anybody's frequenting the basement but Milo to poop. So it's like maybe she didn't know. I just didn't understand what the issue behind that was. So it really turned me off that they collectively made this such a big deal, but all the blame kind of falls on Silas for me because he got so emotionally connected to it. And then he even got into it with Preston as a result of, because Preston's like, you're doing too much. Like, this is so unnecessary. Like, y'all are literally blowing this out of proportion. Y'all are making this worse. Like, this could have been resolved if you went to the room that existed prior to coming to my room. Like, you literally saw that room before you saw me. You could have gone there to talk to Bria. This makes no sense. And he literally clocked it. He's just like, you passed Bria's room to come talk to me. Like, the poop is laying on that carpet longer right now because you're in here talking to me about it. At that point, I was a Preston stan. Like, couldn't have said it better myself. And they're kind of getting into it over it. And like, Silas is like downstairs yelling like, you're my LB, blah, blah, blah. And Preston's like, girl. It's too much. It's still happening. Oh, you still talking about that? Like, girl. And in the midst of it, Bria catches wind of it and she goes and cleans it up. It's already cleaned up before Silas has thrown his third hissy fit about it, because he made his way to Jasmine, who wasn't around. Conveniently, Jasmine's never around when the conflicts happen. Good for her. And he makes his way to Jasmine to complain about it, I guess, so Jasmine can go get hyped up, because she typically does honk the horn on them, Greg. And she's like, it's handled. I walked out there, it's already handled. He is really flustered by it. Like, he's really upset. Next we get the, like, separate group events. So, like, the girls go out and the guys go out, which I think is always fun. I was more excited to see the girls because Silas was with the guys, so yeah. But the tea was mostly with the guys, I would say, because obviously there was just so much reference to this as a whole. So it's like, woo. First, we get this weird part where Silas continued to lose me, and he starts talking about routine. This is him like shedding light on stuff that we already saw, but it's nice to see it be recognized. And it's like, okay, great. Like, it's like getting subtitles. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought was happening, and now I know for sure. So he's just talking about how, like, he's a routine type of guy, which is fine, same. But he has a routine as it relates to gender roles. And basically, he wants Jasmine to wake up and cook his breakfast every day and cook his lunch every day and make his sandwiches without burning them. And as we see from the upcoming episode, iron his pants without messing them up. And it's not great. It's very weird. It's very weird. And I'm glad that I knew, because they've done it in previous episodes. I knew as soon as he was saying it, the rest of the guys are going to be like, nah, that's weird. Like, what? So I like that they call him on it each and every time. I think that they know that Silas is weird. Not even think. Like, his own line brother, Preston, keeps saying that he's controlling. So they know he's weird. And I like that they clock it. Especially Nick. Nick is on his each and every time that he says something weird. Even while they're talking about that, he's just like, yeah, I'm on routine. Like, I'm trying to be on routine. And I feel like I'm doing what we usually do. And Jasmine's on vacation mode. Y'all are on vacation. So, I wonder if that felt any type of way as it came out of his mouth. Like, I wonder if he thought and felt some type of way as he said that. Then we get this weird back and forth between Silas and Jason, which was actually interesting because you're getting the dynamic of these two different black men. The story that Jason started going down, I wasn't completely following it. I feel like he was talking around it a little bit. Like, I didn't know what he was trying to say. I knew he was trying to say something about how he's perceived, but like, don't get it twisted. That was the essence of the story, but I just didn't get the meat of it. And at that point, for some whatever reason, Silas starts trying to call him soft, essentially, and he's just like, you're too nice and you're gonna finish last and all this weird stuff. And he's just like, at the end of the day, like, you'll never get any girls acting like that. It just got weirder and weirder. Like, I'm not sure where Silas stands as a person or like the way that he thinks, but it's definitely giving toxic masculinity and gender roles. So much happening. I'm not sure the guys should go out alone ever again. These ladies impromptu buy them a round of shots, and obviously they reference back to the clip where Silas is like, if you're in a relationship, nobody should be buying you drinks. And I had agreed with him that episode, so now I'm embarrassed, but it is what it is. Now he's getting drinks from ladies at the bar, which could have almost been defended, but, he's not wearing his wedding ring. And it's not even so much with the drink thing, because obviously now my argument was if somebody buys you a drink and you're in a relationship, well, no matter what your intentions are, that person may have the wrong intentions. And at the end of the day, you're putting yourself in a weird predicament. He's magnifying that point because he doesn't even have a wedding ring on. So there's no like defense to show like, oh, I'm really not available. Like, it just, again, no matter what your like intentions are, I'm sure he may not have worn his wedding ring to show ladies like, hey, I'm looking, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that probably wasn't his intention, but now you're in that space. Now you've kind of opened that up. So that's what made that worse. But that aside, he's also sitting here having this whole speech. He's like, this talk stays at the table, right? Because it's like he wanted to reveal to them and come out to them as being a toxic male who believed heavily in gender roles. And he was telling them like, I want routine. And it's like, but you don't even wear your wedding ring. So what type of routine are you looking for, Silas? So that was weird to me. We then get to the girls, which was it was a lot to watch. So I'm glad it was kind of. I keep knocking this mic. The ladies, they're hanging out. It's kind of like the footage was sparing because they're lit. And every time that I saw it, Shanice's top was down, which became a theme in the episode, and Bria's legs were up. So that was everything that I kept seeing from them. The only thing that I noted was like Jordan was very me. Because when I go out with my friends and we're lit and they're doing stuff like that, I'm immediately pulling out my phone because we need these memories. We need this footage.
Wait, no, I'm going to take these shots. Thank you. We'll take them to go. Thank you.
Get out of my grass.
Let's go. Get up.
So that was very much me. And she took that opportunity to get a read in on Silas because we were already reading Silas. That was great editing. And so she's getting a read on Silas over here. And she's just like, Silas was trying to beef with me, but I'm the only one acting like I got sense. They get back to the house. They're lit. They kind of trash the house, which was very triggering to me because I don't like stuff like that. But whatever, they're having a good time. And, they're like skinny dipping and stuff like that. I'm going to note here, they're skinny dipping while, they're the only ones there and it's only women there. It's only the ladies there. They're skinny dipping and having a good time. But then the group comes back and obviously, things escalate pretty quickly and we start seeing scenes that, the guys are getting in with them. They're kicking it. They're having a good time. Simon, who's Bria's man, is in the hot tub with the group, part of the group, and Shanice is in there butt naked. But I did note, though, that, like, Simon wasn't looking. I don't know what was happening the whole time. I wasn't there. But from the portion that I watched, he wasn't looking. And it kind of felt like it was an intentional not look, kind of ignore her. So I appreciate that. Obviously, Bria couldn't see that until now, like, watching the show as a viewer with us. But, yeah, Simon wasn't looking, so that was good. But I do think, like, when it was more people out there, like, I was kind of on Bria's side with this. Not even kind of. I was on Bria's side with this. Like, if my friends are out there with my man in the hot tub and then they see who's supposed to be my best homegirl and she's butt naked, like, I would expect somebody to say something. Not like, even if you're not gonna stand up and be like, wait a minute, this is wrong in the hot tub, like, come talk to me and give me a heads up and be like, hey girl, Shanice is out there acting the fool, you should go do something about it. Or say something in the moment. We're all friends, right? Like, it could have went either way. Somebody could have tapped Shanice like, hey girl, like, you're doing a bit much, and it didn't really have to carry like that. It could have just been like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. That's how I felt, and I felt that way before Bria even said anything. I feel like she's justified in feeling that way. Now, the way that she acted as a result, we'll get into. I did like that when she came inside and announced it, she was like, Shanice is out there butt naked in a hot tub with Simon. And Summer immediately said, of course she is. She'd been clocked that tea. She's like, yeah, of course she is. Shanice just got here yesterday and I'm already seeing it. I know what's her tea. Of course she is. And it felt like Summer was the one going around lobbying with the group. Like, no, that's messed up. Like, Bria has a point. Like, I appreciated that perspective. Because everybody else that's been in the house and has whatever feelings about about Bria, they're just acting like they act because they don't really vibe with Bria. That's my opinion. Like, you can also not agree, but like, I think you can see where Bria is coming from, and I think the intentional choice not to see where she's coming from is weird. Even when, like, it really bothered me, like, even when Jordan did her confessional, she's just like, reading Bria like, girl, you in there drunk making a steak, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it is though, and like, I hated that for Jordan because I really like Jordan, and Jordan tends to try to play the like voice of reason and seem very rational and very open-minded, but she was very closed off to this. I think probably because she just doesn't care for Bria, and I didn't like that on her. It didn't look cute on her. And I think that, to recognize that Shanice was crazy drunk and doing the most, which everybody did, but then turn and act like Bria is not validating and feeling the way she did was weird to me. Because even Preston was like, girl, go to bed. Like, they were just like treating her like the drunk friend. Like, Shanice, you're doing too much, girl. Get out of here. Oh, Bria, you feel some type of way about Shanice being too drunk and acting like this? You shut up. But we acknowledge that she is doing too much. That was weird to me. At least when they were going to bed, Silas did tell Jasmine about the lady like buying them drinks at the bar or whatever. That really didn't go anywhere unless I missed it, but at least he told her. So I thought that was good. I don't know if that matters. The next day, I was still turned off because it seemed like everybody was now really set in on just like discrediting Bria for how she felt about the situation. Nobody was really considering, especially not Summer. And that's that's one of my big triggers. Like, that's supposed to be your friend, and you're literally finding all ways to be adversarial about the way that she's feeling. You don't have to agree with her, right? Like, she even made points where she's like, I don't know what's wrong with Bria, but I don't care. Like, you know what's wrong with her. She told you why you're upset. You don't agree, but I don't understand having the stance against your friend's feelings. Like, at the end of the day, that's your friend, and she has feelings about what you did around her man. So in the event that her man doesn't mean anything to you at all, which I would assume is the case, why do you need to argue to be right on that side of the situation? At the end of the day, whether you agree or not, your friend feels some type of way, so you should just acknowledge that and move on. It shouldn't be a whole thing of like, well, I don't care and I didn't do anything wrong. Like, why? It's just weird to me as somebody's friend to be arguing on the other side of things where there's no leverage. You're arguing to be right about being naked around Bria's man. That's weird. Like, you're making a point to say like, Bria, she's wrong, and that's she's wrong for the way that she feels as your friend, and that's weird. So I didn't like that. Shanice has lost me. She never really had me, but she's definitely lost me for that because that's weird. I also made a note. I guess I'm really liking Summer, but before they went to like the rose thing that they did, the little dress that Summer had on, they obviously gassed her up enough on the episode, but she did look really good. Like, she looked great. Then we also get like a part 2 of the Silas versus Jason because they're taking the table outside and Silas just starts being weird. We're back in the controlling narrative and like it just gets heated. You could tell that like Jason's just not gonna have Silas and Jason part 2. Jason's not gonna have like Silas's BS. He's just not. Like, you're doing too much. Like, so I'm gonna have to call you out on it. Now, I will note that I'm happy that Silas tried to explain it and say like, well, this is where it's coming from. You know, like that's the rational side of Silas that I feel like we get to see. Like, this is where it's coming from. But at the same time, like, great, I'm happy we got to hear that, and I'm happy he got to recognize that, like, oh, maybe I'm doing too much, so let me try to talk it down and explain it. But at the same time, like, it's too much. You need to bring it down. Like, it's a lot. So hopefully he's gonna be in a position to start doing that. Because I think he's recognized now, like, it's not working with the group, clearly. And Jason's ready to pop off every time that I do it. And Jasmine's barely even feeling it. So, you know, because Jasmine, he argued, like, well, Jasmine didn't even defend me when they were saying that. And it's like, bruh, like, there's nothing we can do. You need to relax. And as I was alluding to, like, yes, I feel Bria on the way that she feels. And I feel like Shanice is wrong. I feel like the group is wrong. However, it starts to mess things up based on the way that Bria is acting. Because now it's like, well, girl, now you want to sit in the room all day. Like, every time that they showed that camera of her sitting up in that room with her man who just came from out of the country to visit her, that was so cringy. It's like, Bria, come on. Like, I understand what she was saying, where she's like, I need a moment because it's been a lot. I get that. But in the spirit of being an adult and being communicative and not looking like you're just picking and like the narrative is kind of going now. It seems like you're just picking. You even were in the kitchen and Preston's like, you're the common denominator, which I hate it. But it's just like, now you look like you're the issue and you're causing all the problems. And I don't necessarily feel that way, but I think the way that you're handling them is making it seem that way. If she was more communicative, and well, she communicates, but a better communicator, an effective communicator, and not so much like more like pouty and trying to isolate when she's upset about things, it would go so much better. And I get that that's a coping mechanism. That's how people do things. I don't think there's any malintent behind it. That's just how she handles things. But in this house, in this group, she's going to have to learn, which she probably doesn't have any time now, but she needs to learn to deal with those things better. And it would have been so much better if she just went. Honestly, she should have pulled Shanice aside if she hadn't. I don't know that she had, but had a full-on conversation with her and say, girl, I didn't like that. That wasn't right. We're not lit anymore. We can have a sober conversation and move forward instead of leading with anger. I get being upset and leading that way, but you can't have an effective conversation. You can't come to a resolve like that. So I do think the way that she kind of handled it, it just felt like she was dragging it instead of trying to fix it with somebody that's supposed to be her homegirl. And then even if you want it, addressing the group. At the road, they're all together. They're all sitting downstairs at the table outside, right outside the window. Just like, hey, y'all, I felt some type of way yesterday. Let's talk about it and let's move on. I wish that's what she had done, but she was in her feelings. And so I don't agree with the way she handled it, but I understand her feeling the way that she felt. Last thing I noted was just like Shanice making it worse. Like, if it hadn't been evident already and her like listening to what she was saying, she just kept arguing, making it a point to argue like, Bria's tripping, I don't care. Like, that's not a good friend. So to make matters worse, at the very end, she's seeking to antagonize Bria by walking out, like everybody's having the brunch or whatever the heck they're doing, and she walks out on the balcony with her chest out. And it's just like, you're not even understanding. You're not understanding. You don't know where you're at. Like, you think this is a kiki, and you potentially think that everybody's kind of on your side. Like, I think she may even see that, like, the house is not feeling Bria, and she's trying to lean into that. But it's kind of like, they ain't feeling you either. And now you're doing too much, and it just doesn't look, nothing that you're doing is a good look on you. Like, yeah, we not feeling Bria, so we're kind of more so on your side as it pertains to what happened last night, but we also ain't feeling you. Like, you definitely were doing too much. And that's why I can't really rock with the group, because they know they feel that way about Shanice, and they know they feel like Shanice is doing too much. They just don't like Bria, so they don't want to agree with Bria. But again, the way that Bria is acting, it is a little bit hard to get up there and agree with Bria. So I guess. But I also don't. Now that she's done that, we did get the preview of Jasmine saying, I don't like that. Do I think that Jasmine's going to follow through with that? Or maybe that clip was out of context. Maybe it's not going to be a Jasmine versus Shanice thing. Very likely. But what I would like to see is somebody else hold Shanice accountable, even if it's not in the name of defending and aligning with Bria. Be honest about what was happening at the end of the day. That lady should not have been butt naked around her man. And she shouldn't even, Jasmine should have an issue because she shouldn't be topless in front of Silas. And even if Silas and Simon ain't there, you shouldn't be walking around doing the most because you're doing too much and you're irritating me. That's enough for me. If somebody even came out like, you're doing too much and you're blowing me, that would have been fine with me. Because let her know she's doing too much. I thought the episode was really good. It's getting better. It's getting a lot better. It was never bad, but I just feel like it's making more sense and it's clicking now, and I know what I'm watching, and it has some continuity to it, and I enjoyed it. I will see y'all in the next episode.